All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep into Darringmoor, a city that's got it all: history, intrigue, and just a little touch of magic.
Sounds fun.
It is. You might be surprised to hear this, but our source material today is actually a role-playing game supplement.
Really?
Yeah, it's called F.O. Eldoria, Darringmoor, City of Shadows. Now, before you think we've lost it, these supplements can be absolute gold mines for fascinating lore.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so think of it kind of like we're giving you a crash course, not just in like the dry facts, but also the stories, the personalities, and all the secrets that make Darringmoor come alive.
I like it.
So get ready to walk the cobbled streets and peek into the shadowed corners of Darringmoor with us.
Let's do it.
It's this port city that sits right on Darringmoor Bay at the mouth of the Arita River.
Oh, wow. So it's got like a perfect location for trade and stuff.
Exactly. Prime real estate, you can practically smell all the spices from these far-off lands.
Very.
But Darringmoor's location is a little more complex than your average bustling port. It also happens to sit right next to something called Sereth's Vale, which is sort of this weak spot between the world of Enshar and other dimensions.
Uh-oh. That sounds ominous.
It is. And guess what one of those dimensions is?
I don't know.
The undead domain of Shadowland.
So not your average seaside town then.
No, definitely not the best place for a relaxing beach vacation.
Nope.
So what impact has this veil had on the city? Because I'm assuming there's been an impact.
Oh, absolutely. A huge impact. It's shaped Darringmoor in some really profound ways. Imagine generations facing these undead incursions. For a period of time, they called it the Time of Shadows. And get this, the entire city retreated underground each night for safety.
Wow, a city that literally goes to sleep underground every night.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Think about adapting to your environment.
That level of resilience has got to have had a lasting impact on the city's culture and like even just their outlook on things.
Oh, absolutely. You can see it even in the name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Originally, the city was known as Darkmoor.
Darringmoor.
Pretty fitting name considering, right?
Yeah.
But around 844 R, the city decided, you know what? We're not going to let fear define us. Mayor Strangehand actually proposed renaming the city Darringmoor as a symbol of their defiance.
So from Darkmoor to Darringmoor, it's like they literally chose hope over fear.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And get this, they voted and they made it official.
Oh, wow. So it was like a democratic process.
It was.
It makes you wonder if there are any remnants of that old Darkmoor still lurking beneath the surface.
That's a great question. It raises this whole issue of how a city balances acknowledging its past with even the dark parts and its desire to move forward.
For sure. And speaking of things that make you think, what about the current political landscape? Like, who's really running the show in Darringmoor right now?
Okay, so right now it's under Elkeen rule, and it follows Ormosian law. But there's some tension brewing.
Oh, really? Like, with who?
The nearby Kingdom of Flan still sees Darringmoor as part of their territory.
Oh, so you've got this external political pressure from Lon, and then internally you've got the religious element. We see these churches of the Holy Trinity, or Moshiach, Esmia, and Sirtar. They're all vying for influence. The Sirtar Order in particular seems to be a pretty major player. They have these paladins. They're acting as protectors of the city. It's like a holy order of knights.
Yeah, very much so. It's definitely this potent mix of faith and power.
Wow.
And then there's also mention of something called the Stormwatch. It's a secret order within the Ormosian Church that is dedicated to opposing the Sirith cult.
Wait, a secret society. Okay, now we're talking. Who are they, and what is this Sirith cult all about?
That's where things get really mysterious.
Oh, no.
The source material only offers a quick glimpse, but it does hint at this deeper conflict brewing beneath the surface. And this Sirith cult is devoted to the very entity behind those undead incursions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they could pose a very real danger to Darringmoor.
A secret society fighting a shadowy cult. Okay, I'm officially hooked. And with all this talk of danger and intrigue, I'm suddenly really curious about what everyday life is like for the people of Darringmoor. Like, what are the different neighborhoods like? Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Darringmoor is kind of this city of contrasts. Each district has its own unique character and secrets. Let's start with Ferdel's Eyrie. It's the upscale residential zone. Imagine these cobbled streets that are winding up a hillside, and they lead to grand houses with breathtaking views of the bay.
Sounds lovely, but I'm guessing not everyone can afford a house with a view. What about the rest of Darringmoor's residents? Where did they live?
Well, for those who work the docks and the markets, there's Kellick Bay. Imagine a bustling waterfront that's crammed with warehouses and shipyards. The air's thick with the smell of salt and fish.
I can practically hear the shouts of the merchants and the sounds of hammers on ships.
Exactly. And then there's Southcliff. It's one of the oldest districts, and picture charming but slightly rundown houses that are clinging to the steep hillsides. The source material actually mentions this crazy steep street called Justice Street, and it's so treacherous they have an ascent actuary to calculate load risks before carts are allowed to go up.
An ascent actuary? That's amazing. Talk about a news job. It really speaks to Darringmoor's ingenuity, though. I mean, they could have just abandoned the street or not used it, but instead they came up with a solution.
It definitely speaks to their practicality and their problem-solving skills.
Exactly. They don't let a steep hill stop them. But let's move on. What's next?
Okay, let's go to Tallheart. It's a district that's known for its green spaces and this legendary house that's rumored to have been built by a giantess.
Okay, I'm picturing lush gardens and maybe a house with some extra tall doorways.
Could be.
But you can't forget about the less fortunate citizens of Darringmoor.
Right.
What about them?
Well, there's Dimside. It's the poorest district, and it's literally overshadowed by these huge cliffs. It's really densely populated narrow streets and this constant hum of activity. Life there is tough.
It's a good reminder that not every part of Darringmoor is postcard worthy. There's a real sense of hardship for some. But even in the toughest of circumstances, life finds a way. And I bet there's a really strong sense of community in those tight-knit streets.
Oh, I bet you're right about that. And speaking of community, each district also has its own kind of unique gathering places.
Like what?
We'll take the docks, for example. It's the heart of the city's commerce. Imagine massive ships from all over Eldoria unloading exotic goods. The wharves are bustling with activity, and the air's alive with a mix of languages and accents.
Okay, now I'm picturing myself wandering through those docks, maybe stopping for a drink at a rough-and-tumble tavern.
Oh yeah, you and everyone else. But if it's sensory overload, you've got to visit the market district.
Oh yeah, what's that like?
It is the beating heart of Darringmoor. Think vibrant stalls that are overflowing with fresh produce, handmade goods, and everything in between.
You've convinced me I'm adding the market district to my must-see list. Hopefully I won't get lost in the crowds. But tell me, is there a quieter side to Darringmoor? Like somewhere you can go to kind of escape the hustle and bustle?
Well, there's Westgate. It's the gateway to the city, and it has a much more rural feel with farmland and sprawling estates. You'd probably find a little bit more peace and quiet there.
This sounds perfect for an afternoon stroll. Maybe I'll even spot one of those twin-tailed falcons that the source mentions.
Maybe you will.
But speaking of unique features, we can't forget Holy North. It's dominated by the imposing Holy Mount and the temples of the Holy Trinity. Imagine soaring spires, ancient crypts, and maybe even a few secrets buried beneath the cobblestones.
Ooh, I like it.
Secrets and crypts. Now you're speaking my language. I'm sensing a theme here. Darringmoor is a city full of surprises, a place where every corner you turn you might reveal something unexpected.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
And I think with that, we've laid a pretty good foundation.
Yeah.
We've explored the history, the geography, and even touched on some of the political and religious forces at play in Darringmoor.
We've seen the grand houses of Fairdale's Eyrie and the humble dwellings of Dimside. We've wandered through the bustling docks and the crowded markets. But I have a feeling we've only just begun to uncover the true depth and complexity of this extraordinary city.
Oh, absolutely. There's still so much more to explore.
Well, listeners, get ready to dive even deeper into Darringmoor. When we come back, we'll be delving into some of the specific locations and the characters that make this city truly come alive. Stay tuned.